Good morning, Tommy. How are you?
Good morning, guys. Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Happy New
Appreciate it.
Year.
Happy New Year to you. Um, Georgia did everything but win. Heck of a football game. Kind of analyze that for us.
It was a great game, especially for us defensive-oriented guys. My wife said at halftime, "You like this 13-0 stuff." I said, "I love it." I work for ESPN now, and I go all over the country and watch these teams just play offense and no defense. But you can't win championships. You can win some games. It's harder than championships. And it was great to see that game the other night. That's two of the best coaches in the country going at each other. One younger guy, one guy that obviously has set the curve in college football, Nick. And I thought this was his best year of coaching because he didn't have the players in terms of experience that he's had in the past, and he hadn't had the injuries, and he worked through all that. He worked through losing coaches and coordinators. People don't realize how hard that is to bring guys in and continue to win. So huge accolades to Nick and his staff for what they did, and to be able to come back because, as you said, Georgia won that game from the beginning to the end until the last play, but they found a way to win, and that's what great coaches and great teams do. You find a way to win in the end.
We're talking with Coach Tommy Tuberville. Coach, obviously Tua prepared during the week. A lot of times the backup quarterback says, I ain't playing anyway, and they don't really prepare. He looked like he did. And, of course, everybody here in Tuscaloosa is ready to give him the Heisman next year. But how difficult will it be for next year if he wins the job where you guys that are defensive-minded guys, you're going to really scheme to stop this guy where, sometimes that second-string guy can come in. They weren't really prepared for him. How difficult will that be for this kid next year if he is the starter when guys are really trying to pick his game apart and find his weaknesses? Will it be more difficult for him?
Oh, it will be. And don't forget, you got a guy on the bench that Jalen Hurts that's done an unbelievable job in terms of winning games and getting to this national championship 2 years in a row. And he was a true freshman last year and just a second-year guy this year. But it was that was something to watch unfold the other night. And, just the average fan watching, what happened? What happened to Georgia's defense? Well, what happened is this kid throws the ball better than Jalen Hurts. Obviously, he might not practice, but in that game, he was loose. He came out and threw some slant routes. And he forced Georgia out of a 7-8 man front and made him get into a zone defense in the secondary, take a guy out of the box, and that enabled Alabama to run the ball better. They just couldn't load up on the run, so it opened the running game up, which opens the passing game up, and it gives the young quarterback a chance to execute a little bit better and not have people in his face as much. But he did a great job. I tell you, the 3rd and 9 scramble won the game. You can't coach speed, you can't coach quickness, and you can't coach that type of athlete. You just have to make it. And of course, Jalen Hurts done that for 2 years. He couldn't get him off of him the other night. He couldn't make those completions and get Georgia off of him. And they had 91 yards the first half, and that was a no-brainer. I'm sure the offensive coordinator has been trying to get Nick to put him in all year long, more in certain situations, but that was a perfect timing. And again, it all worked out. When he throws that interception, I'm thinking, oh heck, if they lose this game, there's going to be scrutiny for taking Hurt out. And then, of course, he turns around and makes that 4th down throw in the end zone for a touchdown. Now, it looked like he's throwing to the other guy, and Ridley made him look good, but he got the job done and made the throw at the end. And that was more of a great call than a great throw to me because you had to make that play and at least get back in field goal range in overtime.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting to me to hear you talk about the change in defenses. I thought Georgia was so good defensively, and of course they knew how to play. They knew the personnel, and Alabama did a great job with their best defensive player out after the Clemson game. But to change some things defensively, when the new quarterback came in, to me, the average guy watching that game doesn't realize that, but it did change the front of Georgia, and it turned out to be huge.
Yeah, in your terms, Wimp, it forced them to go to man defense in basketball to a zone and give them a chance to shoot 3 pointers. And, it loosened them up. And, that kid if he comes in and struggles with the slant routes and doesn't throw them on line and on target and not able to make plays with his legs, Georgia's going to win that game. But early in that, when he came in the half, you could just tell it just opened it up, and Mel Tucker and Kirby said, let's go to some zone. And when they did that, and then running backs in Alabama just pounded them. And that was the huge key. And again, you can go back to all the passes you want, but once you open that running game up, that opens the passing game up. It slows the rush down, and it just became a different ball game. Second
That's
half.
good stuff. Yeah, that's good. That's really good for our listeners.
Yeah,
Barry?
and it showed that Nick Saban, he knew he had some big-time freshmen over there, and I think he said, told those guys on offense, let's get them in there. Let's let them play, where a lot of times he likes to let them work their way through the season, then maybe next year they start. You look out there, not only Tua, but you had Najee Harris out there as well, and Damian Harris has had an excellent year. Just kind of talk about that, where Nick Saban just finally said, put the freshman kids out there and let's see what they can do, and boy, did they perform.
Yeah, and that's what happens. Of course, these are different freshmen than a lot of people have.
Right.
I can remember my years at Miami when we were winning national championships every year, every other year. We would really have long discussions on whether to play. Do we play Warren South? Do we play Ray? At linebacker? Do we play these guys? And I remember Ray Lewis. I finally decided, I was a D coordinator, and I finally decided that third game because of an injury, hey, let's play him. And we play him against Cordell Stewart in Colorado. We're number one team, and he makes 19 tackles. And hell, he didn't know what he's doing.
Right.
Coaching is way overrated in a lot of these deals. It's just getting them in the right spot, just getting them lined up, and let them use their athletic ability. But again, that was a fun game to watch for me, just as a defensive guy. It was like two Mack trucks running into each other, and again, they found the combination. Nick and the offensive coordinator found the right combination to dial up to get Kirby out of that 8-9 man front. And when they did, it opened it up, and just enough for them to be able to pull the win out.
Well, you and I talked about it yesterday, and this is the negative part that all the fans won't like, but that's the reason we have a show. The missed situation when they grabbed the face mask, which would put Georgia on the 23-yard line, 1st and 10, was a huge miss. Certainly don't want to take anything away from Alabama's victory, but you and I talked a little bit about that yesterday, and even the push down of the guy when Alabama pushed the guy's head down a little bit, not called, was interesting. No calls, or I guess they were just missed calls, Tommy.
Yeah, sometimes they are, Wimp, but I've been in hours of meetings with officials during the off season. I was president of AFCA and talked to Mike Pierre, the guy that ran the NFL officials. When you get closer to the end, when you get to NFL playoffs, or you get to now the playoff in college football, you let the best team win, and you try not to get involved in as much. I saw that crew. You and I talked about this yesterday, and I knew that crew from Big Ten, and I was, I'd had some problems with them over the years, but again, it's just hard. You get new officials into working basically an SEC game, and they're not used to that speed and the quickness and all the things that go on. And I thought overall, I thought they did a good job. Overall, I think they let the best team win. I think they missed the punt, the block punt. You say, well, that won the game for Georgia. Well, who knows?
Well, Alabama false started, and they missed that, so they missed. Really would have been a 5-yard back if they got the call right on the block punt.
Right.
So they missed it all the way around. Coach, when Nick Saban now, he's got to sit down with these juniors. There's some no-brainers. Minkah Fitzpatrick, Calvin Ridley, probably Deron Payne are going pro. What do you do with a guy like you got Damian Harris there and Bo Scarborough? Bo's been known to get injured. You got Najee Harris, that superstar freshman there that you want to get a lot of playing time with. How do you handle that with these two running backs as far as advising them on what they should do as far as the NFL goes?
Well, running backs are different than anybody else on the team because running backs only have so many times that they can get hit and knocked around. It's like I said the other night, those running backs from Georgia, those kids were getting pounded. Alabama's running backs were getting pounded. And so if you ever give anybody the the nod of, hey, you might ought to come out, would probably be a running back because, it's just the way it is. I mean, they go to the NFL, they got to get going, and they've only got so many licks there. I can remember the year Ronnie Brown and Carnell Williams came back, and I just told them, you do what you want to do. I'm not telling you, and fortunately for us, they came back for another year. Same thing for Chubb and Stone and Michelle at Georgia. You just got to make your mind up. Coaches can't make it up. You just got to give them the rein and say you find out what you need to do from the people that are going to help you in the future because this is your life. And so that's and Nick will help them. But again, running backs are totally different than anybody else. Receivers, they've got to really look at coming back. Quarterbacks, but running backs are totally different because all the hard licks they take during practice and during the season.
How does he handle this with Jalen Hurts? I mean, does he bring all the quarterbacks in to say, look, I know all the outside noise is going on, but when spring practice starts, we're going to have a competition there and find the best man will win? Does he talk to him about, hey, do you really want to play quarterback? Is there another position? How do you handle that with Jalen after you put him on the bench? This other kid came in. There maybe is some doubt in his mind about what his future is as far as playing quarterback here. What do you do about that if you're Nick Saban?
You know what? Being in college football for 40 years, it gave me hope again about our sport, about how that kid handled that game.
Absolutely.
I was so proud to be part of football of how he handled it and how Nick has handled him and the things that have gone on with quarterbacks are so fragile. And I kind of watched him on the sideline during the game, and he was. Obviously, everybody saw he's supportive, but I watched his facial expression. Sometimes they can fake it. This kid was excited about it. He wanted to win the national championship, and he knew that if he couldn't throw the ball down the field, Alabama was going to lose. And so he understood the situation. Now, that being said, don't give the Heisman Trophy the starting job to this kid yet. This kid is special. He can get the job done. He knows what he's got to work on. He knows how he's got to get better. He can be coached, and things will come better for him. The kid that played the other night, Tua, he's going to be hit and miss. He is a young guy that hadn't played that much, and just don't give the starting reins to him yet. I think it's going to be a battle. It's going to be great for Alabama. It's going to be great for your football team.
Yeah, that.
The East, I have a lot of I don't really know Jeremy Pruitt, but I know kind of worker he is. That's he's not like the president of the United States. He makes mistakes, but he works. He's going to work. You supposedly got an improvement at Florida. Georgia's going to be at the top of the heap. So those three schools there, with South Carolina working hard too, are really going to carry the East. You've got a situation at LSU where the Troy game tore up the staff. Comment about the new changes of Pruitt going to Tennessee and the work he's going to have to do, and LSU, and where you think Florida stands as we go forth of this season.
Well, there was a lot of coaching changes in the SEC this year, Wimp, and they got much better. I've watched it. I think there's no doubt that the coaching changes really helped last year. I said on your show that Kirby Smart and Ed Orgeron was two best hires in college football last year. And I know Ed struggled in a couple of games, but he didn't have the players, and to end up winning 9 games I thought was good. They will get much better. They will be in the hunt for championships in years to come. Obviously, Kirby is Kirby, and they're number one in recruiting right now, and I think that's going to be the major challenge for Nick and his team down the road. But I think Jeremy Pruitt's going to be fine. His ace in the hole is Philip Fulmer. Philip's going to help him. He'll help him. And people don't realize this. In pro football, it's 70% coaching. I've always said 70% coaching, 30% about how you set your free agency up in your draft. There's a lot more coaching in pro football. Everybody's got good players. In college, it's 30% coaching, 70% recruiting. You have to recruit. And look at Nick and how he set it up. Look at Kirby, how he's doing it. And Jeremy will do the same thing if he listens to Philip. You've got to set your recruiting up all across the South. You've got to have people helping you. I'm not talking about breaking rules. I'm talking about having every avenue to evaluate players the best to be able to get players on campus, to be able to recruit them. And that's where you win. Nick is a good coach. He's a great coach. He's a better recruiter. He wins between January and August. That's when he wins his game. He's got better players than most people, but then you got to coach them. But Jeremy's going to have to do it. That's what Kirby's going to do, and that's what Ed Orgeron's going to have to do. And I tell you, it's going to be some battles now between the Dogs and the Alabama Crimson Tide for a few years, because you saw just a glimpse of it the other night. But you got to see Tennessee's got to come back. Florida's got to come back. I've never seen teams go south so quick as these teams have done. But I think Jeremy Pruitt will do good. As you said, he's learned from one of the best. He's got great work ethic, and then he's got ace in the hole and Philip Fulmer helping him out.
Yeah, what does he do there? You talk about you get a new job. The first 100 days, you lay the framework of what you want to do in a program. What does he do the first 100 days there to get that thing started at Tennessee?
Staff. You got to have people to recruit. I always told people that I can find all the coaches in the world, and a lot of these guys think, especially these young guys coming out now, and these ADs are hiring these high school coaches coming in, and they think they're going to out-coach everybody. You ain't going to out-coach anybody. You're going to out-recruit people. You got to have the recruiters on your staff that can sell your program, and sell your philosophy, sell your head coach. It's not your head coach as much as it's the head coach's philosophy in terms of getting that over to your staff. I've looked at some of the guys that Jeremy has hired. I think he's done a good job. You look at Ed Orgeron. Ed obviously made a mistake at offensive coordinator, and he recognized it, but he was willing to pull the trigger and say, listen, you're not going to fit in here. We got to have somebody else. We got to have somebody that understands my philosophy and what we want to do and understands the SEC. And so good head coaches do that. They pull the trigger. They don't hem-haw around about it. And you make those changes. Jeremy's not going to make 100% great hires. He'll figure that out after the first year. He'll make changes, and Kirby's done the same thing, and Nick did the same thing, and that's just part of it.
Yep, that.
Well, I don't really have anything else. I just appreciate so much Tommy being on. I tell you this, the analyzing it the way he has and getting people to understand that it's 70% coaching and recruiting in football and basketball too, and then get them lined up is something people I don't think realize. And I don't know how Barry was saying this morning he's not sure the offensive coordinator likes all that recruiting. He might leave, and I said, well, I'm not sure he will, Tommy, because he got $216,000 for winning that game the other night, so he might not leave.
Well, he'll wait till that check clears, and then he might go.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, you bring the guys from pro to college, and it's totally different. And same thing from college to pro. I've got buddies that's going to pro football, and they won't come back. They won't come back to college because it's not as hard in terms. It's coaching. You don't have to go out and evaluate and beg these 18-year-old kids and talk to parents and. It is a year-round job to recruit. It's not 6 or 7 months. It's year-round now, and you got to put your nose to the grindstone, and you got to be relentless. And it gets harder and harder. But I'm proud of this national signing date that they've got early. I think that's going to help coaches and families, and I think it's going to make college football better for the assistants especially.
Yep, Coach, great stuff. We appreciate it very much.
Appreciate Tommy.
Have a great year, guys.
Okay.
Talk to you soon.
Thank you. Thank you.
There's Coach